All right, Coach, thanks for stopping in and giving us some time. Congrats on being named to the competition committee. We already heard you're a mover and a shaker and changing all kinds of rules, coming up with 17 different proposals, I heard. You had a long list, so that's good to hear. Congrats on that. But no, in all seriousness, what was your reaction when you were asked to serve? We didn't even know how that works. Does Commissioner Goodell call you and offer you the spot? Like, walk us through how all of that kind of came about and what your reaction to it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's as formal as what you see and people knock on your door for the Hall of Fame. It wasn't quite that to that extent. No, but it was a phone call from Troy Vincent, and the first thing that actually came was a text the night before, and I'm like, oh. What did we do wrong, right?
It's
kind of like, are you getting called to the principal's office? And so the next morning then we connected over the phone, and he shared the news with me. Troy did that they would like me to accept their offer to join the committee, and I didn't hesitate, really. I mean, it was a little bit of a conversation about understanding what it would entail, because it does take a little bit of time away from our team. Mm-hmm. But in the short amount of time now that I've been in those meetings, they've been very educational and informational for me, is not only to grow the game and be guardians of the game, as one Bill Polian shared with me, who is also a committee member years ago, but also to help educate me and our team, right? And because some of the information that you do get is a little bit, you don't always get that when you're not on the committee. So it's been great so far.
From rules to roster regulations to technology, you guys cover so much in these committee meetings. Did you seek out any advice of any former competition committee members before joining the force here?
Well, I did in some ways. There's people that are already they're not on the committee, but they're in the meetings. NFL league office representatives, and so I reached out to them, just said, hey, what's the cadence, right? What's expected of me? And some of that was with Troy as well. And so good conversations and, hey, what's expected? Because there's been many of these meetings over the years that have taken place, and never want to go back and kind of try and rehash things that have already been hashed out over and over and over again. So I'm just trying to do the best that I can in my first season in terms of serving.
That's got to be a cool full circle moment, though. I mean, you went to the Eagles when Troy was a player, and now here's the guy giving you the call. And that's from what we understand, it's one of the higher honors that can be bestowed on an active coach, to be serving on that kind of a committee. That's good for you, man. I mean, that's cool.
An honor, truly an honor. It really is. It's how you're viewed from a peer perspective, from the league perspective, ownership perspective. But again, as I said, receiving a text from Bill Polian a few days ago, and just how he views it, and then how a lot of people around the league who have been around the league for a number of years view it, and then the responsibility too that comes with it, because you can't go in there, right? You don't want to go in there and just say, hey, well, this is what's best for the Buffalo Bills. I want to do that, right? Don't get me wrong, but you have to grow the game accordingly to what's best for the overall league.
Okay, so let's switch gears to more Bills Central here. And not long into the offseason, you named Joe Brady your offensive coordinator, removing the interim tag. What were the top couple of convincing factors in him being named to that position full-time?
Yeah, well, I would say number one was his relationship and rapport with our quarterback, with Josh. That's huge, right? And so you have to be able to get to have that key relationship and the trust. And I was able to watch that unfold in the number of games since Joe took over, and was very impressed by it. Two, I'd say, was the collaboration that Joe was able to establish with the offensive staff in a short amount of time, albeit. And some of them, three, were the results that we were able to get. And I would say pretty much in that order. And then there's some other things as well that went along with it.
Well, we saw a sample size from Joe Brady this past season, but what should we anticipate going forward for this offense? Subtle changes or something a little more significant?
Well, I think some changes you'll see, Maddie, and others you won't. Naturally, when Joe has a chance to really put his thumbprint on the offense, this off season to slow it down. We've added a staff member as well, and Ronald Curry that Joe knows well, and so that was important for Joe, for us, and then also just so terminology will change a little bit, trying to maybe do some things a little bit differently behind the scenes, off the field, in the process end of things, and then on the field, I'm sure there will be a lot the same because it's what's worked, and it's what's worked with Josh. And so, but then there'll also be some new things that you want to do or want to evolve with.
You and Brandon at your season wrap-up press conference were pretty clear that you feel you're as close as you've ever been to kind of breaking through and maybe getting all the way through on the AFC side of the ledger. I know it doesn't all apply to Josh, but you've often said, I've got to let Josh be Josh, in running your offense. But in your film review of Josh, who had a super season by all accounts, is there a way to more effectively manage risk and at the same time capture those 2 or 3 more plays that you need to break through?
And when you ask managing risk, are you saying in reference to running and getting hit and taking hits?
Or going for all the marbles when maybe I take the single up the middle, or that kind of thing?
That's an area I would say that Josh continues to grow in, right? Really both areas. Whereas, hey, take what the defense has given you. I thought he did a phenomenal job of that in the postseason in particular. And I think that's something that we need to get off to a better start with the start of the season, right? And then taking hits. Josh is a competitive guy, as competitive as there is at the quarterback position in particular in our league, and so you got to take some of the good with the bad, but you also have to understand the state of the league, right? You're seeing a record number of backup quarterbacks play this season. It is really hard to win and win big with a backup quarterback, so it's obviously not ideal, and so we have to be very aware of that. Josh does as well. Joe as well, and so continually to grow, and hey, when it's time to go out of bounds, you go out of bounds, or when it's time to slide, you slide. That's all part of Josh's continual development and growth.
You decided to promote Bobby Babich to the defensive coordinator position. Why did you feel like it was important to fill that role, and why was Bobby Babich the right fit for it?
Well, I really felt good about our staff overall, and Bobby's he's had success developing players at more than one position, which is impressive. At first, it was with Micah and Jordan at the safety position, and then he moved to the linebacker position, and he did the same with Terrell Bernard, Tyrell Dodson, just to name a few. And so that's been impressive. When you can take players and help them develop, that's a sign of a good coach. And so being a good position coach is one thing. However, being a good coordinator is another, and that remains to be seen. But what Bobby has also displayed along the way has been a big picture perspective for defensive football and how the front ties to the back end. And so I'm excited to see his signature on this defense and how he wants to grow it. And of course, I'll be helping him do that as well. But I'm excited already to watch the new staff that's come in and some of the eager new faces that have signed up, and some of it's young, and with some youth comes some new ideas as well. So we're excited about that.
So with a defensive coordinator now on staff in name, which was something you didn't have last year, is Coach Babich calling the plays this season?
Well, we're going to see.
Okay. Still to be determined.
It's still to be determined,
okay.
Correct. Yeah, we're going to go through that, and there's a lot of days and steps between now and then, and,
Gotcha.
and so we'll make that decision when we have to.
You spoke to hiring some new coaches. If you look on the staff now, you have quite a young defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, several young new coaches. Why did you decide to look for youth in filling a lot of the opening coaching roles?
Well, it's a little bit kind of just by the natural evolution of identifying good coaches that have upward and upside potential to. They're smart. I mean, when you talk about Matt Smiley, our special teams coordinator. You got Joe and Bobby. Yes, there is some unknown, right? But at the same time, to me, that gives me a chance to get alongside of these young coaches and help them develop, but also for them to bring some new and fresh ideas to the table. And they have a vision for how they see the game, and you have to have that as a coordinator, as a play caller, as a head coach, more so than you do obviously at a position coach level. So all coaches are important, but to have that ability to think in more than one dimension is important, and I believe all three of those coaches have that.
And it feels very much like a fresh start for your coaching staff in a lot of ways. Do you think that can also apply to players going forward? Like, I know a lot of people are eager to see what Kyer Elam can do for this defense. Could it be like a fresh start for someone like him?
Well, it could be. We have a new corners coach there, and Jamila Dye, and excited about that, and his ability to coach and develop players. He's done it through his college journey to this point. We'll see how he does at the NFL level, and excited about that. And watching him work with Coach Dana, our safeties coach, and seeing how that comes together. And so this will be another chapter in Kyer's book, and a chance for him to step up really for us, and number one, be healthy, and then number two is to perform at the level that we need him to perform at.
Coach, now that it's the off season, you've had some time to look back at the film and the tape from this past year. When you've gone back and looked at everything, did you see a player that had an even better season than you remembered?
Great question. It's hard to just narrow it down to just one player, because I believe a lot of the players developed this season. Staying on the defensive side, what Terrell Bernard did, having come from where he came from. I mean, he started, I think, one game it was a year ago as a rookie. That was the will linebacker position. It wasn't even the Mike linebacker position, the middle position that he currently plays. But there's so much more that goes into that middle linebacker position, like leadership, in addition to just doing one's job. And I thought he had a magnificent year. I really did. And not only just on the field, but also in terms of his leadership, right? I remember watching, I think it was Hardy had just scored the touchdown against the Dolphins in the game that won us the division, and I walked down the sideline to address the defense to just say, hey, this is a big series right here, and I didn't have to do that because I didn't have to follow through, because TB was already down there doing that. And to watch the look of his teammates, the look on their eyes was like, hey, we're with you, we got you. And you could just tell that they respect him and respect what he's all about. And I think that says a lot about a young player in particular. And so he's the one that probably jumps to mind right away.
A lot of crooked numbers and a lot of defensive categories for him. Last one from me. We talked about the youth movement with your coaching staff. Brandon kind of indicated at the season wrap-up press conference that with where this team is and its roster build and cap situation as well, and we saw Kansas City kind of take a page out of this book a couple of years ago, where they had a, for lack of a better term, youth movement of sorts by investing heavily in the draft, and their roster got younger, and they moved some more veterans off the roster that they didn't want to re-sign for giant money. Do you anticipate that you may have to go in that direction, maybe more than you have in recent years? And then how does that change how you as a coaching staff have to line things up and prepare for the season if, in fact, you do have a younger roster?
Right. I'll start with the coaching piece first, Chris. It's regardless if you're coaching veteran players or younger players, you're teaching, right? That's what you're doing. You've got to convey a message, get a message across to get the players to understand the technique, the scheme, the why behind it, right? And then moving beyond that, the salary cap is what it is, right? We've got a veteran quarterback on a veteran deal, and so that narrows what's left a little bit. And Josh is, we know how magnificent he's been for us, and so what Kansas City did, to your point, is they added some young youth around some of their pillars. Chris Jones on the defensive side in particular, and so we'll see how this all plays out, right? And so we've got to find a way to get ourselves to where we're ready to play games and play at a high level. That's what we've done, and that's what we expect going forward.
Coach, thanks for the time as always. We always appreciate you stopping by with us here at the Combine. Good luck in those competition committee meetings. Don't be a church mouse, all right? Get your 2 cents in there, okay?
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
Thanks,
I kind of
Coach.
see you sitting there and doing a lot of listening, knowing how you are. All right, that's Coach Sean McDermott joining us here at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis.